Hey nerdy knitter, Tonia here. It's time for another episode of the Nerdy Knitting Podcast, so grab a drink and your knitting and let's settle in for a good chat. We've got a lot to talk about in this episode of the podcast. Plenty of knitting, of course, plus a giveaway, a book recommendation, and lots of great things to discuss. But the first thing I want to chat about is the Next Level Knitting Conference that's coming up in April. It's held online by the Knitting Guild Association. If you've ever heard of the Master Hand Knitting Program or any of their other programs, then they're the organization, the nonprofit organization behind that. And they also hold in-person events as well, but they have started doing an online conference and with lots and lots of wonderful classes. And I'm going to be teaching one class for them about cable knitting. And also I'll be on a panel where they're talking to people who have just finished the Master Hand Knitting program over the past year, and lots of other fun things going on at the event. I think there are 3 to 4 class options for each session. Like I'm teaching during one session on Friday morning, and there's 3 other classes at the same time. So you can choose which session you want to attend, but that doesn't mean you'll miss the other ones. You'll get access to all of the classes. I think it's for 6 months. So for all of the sessions that you're not able to attend, you can check them out later. There is a fashion show and a night with Jared Flood from Brooklyn Tweed. Lots of great things going on, and a giveaway. I don't even know everything. There's a lot going on. So I'll have a link for the conference down below so you can check it out. It is a paid for conference. It's not free, but because of the number of classes, the price is really worth it, I think. So I'll put that down below if you want to check out that conference and all of the class sessions that will be offered. So that's all there is for news, and we usually talk about books and acquisitions and things at the end, but I thought we'd move that to the beginning for something different. So I'll set my sock down that I'm working on, and we will talk about this month's book, which is Vivian Hoxbro's Knitting Handbook, 8 Schools of Modular Knitting. Now, Vivian Hoxbro has other books out. I have one on my shelf, her Danish Night Sweaters book, which is really great. Lots of textured ideas and patterns in the history of the Danish night sweater. She has one, I think, about shadow knitting and a couple other books. I think another book on modular knitting as well. And this one is sort of an expansion on that. So if you're a fan of things like Mitred Squares, where you like work one square and you pick up stitches and you add another square, it's like that, but much, much deeper. It's basically divided into 8 sections, what she calls 8 schools. And each one focuses on one method of working some type of modular construction. Like the very first one is just basic simple squares, or stripes, I should say. You can see a picture of it right here. Just changing the way the stripes are worked. First, it has like garter stitch going in one direction, and then you pick up and you knit stripes going in this direction. Almost looks like a candy, I think. So this one is worked this way, and then you're picking up stitches and working your stripes in that direction. So it starts out very simple, but then as you can see on the cover, we are moving on to like right up to these sort of like shells, these little triangular pieces that are knit modularly, where you'd work one and then you work the other one. But it's a really neat book if you like that sort of modular type of construction. So each school, you start with sort of a swatch that walks you through that type of modular construction, and it starts out with the stripes, and then it moves on to squares, and then tri-squares, right angles, staircases, zigzags, shells, and even circles. So these are the 8 schools, and each one has a swatch that you start with that walks you through like the basic construction. And then there are 2 patterns. I think every single one has some type of a garment, so a vest or a top or something like that. And then the other one would be like maybe a shawl or a scarf or a pillow cover, another shawl. So yes, so you have 2 different options for sort of trying out that modular technique with an actual pattern, or just jump out and use the idea for your own sort of exploration. So it's a really neat book because I really like that idea of just a different way to construct something by using, you know, small pieces. If you've done like a mitered square blanket or a log cabin blanket, sort of that same idea where you're building one square or one piece on top of the other. And she moves beyond squares to these other different shapes. So it's just really interesting book, very, very neat. So, I mean, you can always check your local library and see if they have it there. And the instructions are written out just like you would for a pattern, but there's lots of photos as well. So here is the zigzag school. You can see some of the pictures, like a photo tutorial to walk you through. It's sort of like an entrelac style, but definitely worth checking out if you like different types of construction like them. If you like the modular styles and you'd like to explore things beyond the mitered squares, then Vivian Hoxbro's book is really a great resource to check out. Now that's it for acquisitions, and we're going to move right on to all of the pile of knitting I have beside me. But before we do, I just want to chat about our sponsor for the month, which is Knit Picks. They've got lots of new fabulous things coming out, or they are released now. We're going to talk about 2 of their new yarns, but I do want to say first that I am an affiliate for them, and that means if I share a link below a video or anything like that, and you click on that special link, I get a commission. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It just means that I promote Knit Picks because I really like their product, and I use them a lot. You'll see with the projects I'm working on that I think they're a great affordable yarn. They're sort of that gateway to all those hand-dyed yarns that you might want to try. And they have lots of great yarns, and they have a lot of great affordable yarns. So I like their products. That's why I promote them. But I do want to be transparent and tell you that when you click on a link, a Knit Picks link, then most likely it's an affiliate link, which means I'll get a small commission if you buy something. But it doesn't cost you anything. So I do want to talk about 2 of their new yarns. This one is called Voliere, and I wish you could reach through and touch it. It's a lace weight yarn. This is a blend of 30% mulberry silk, 40% linen, and 30% baby alpaca. So it's really perfect for summer garments or a summer shawl. That bit of alpaca will give it a touch of warmth as well. It's got a bit of a fuzziness to it, I'm guessing probably from that alpaca. And their other new yarn is this beautiful shine. Oh, I love the shine on this yarn. This one's called Samia. Samia, this is a fingering weight yarn. It's 80% cupro and 20% mulberry silk. Now cupro, thankfully, they provided a little insert here because I wasn't sure what that was. It's a type of rayon made from the byproduct of cotton production. It's made from the cellulose fibers that are too short to be spun into cotton. So they take those fibers and they have some sort of process that they do with that. And then they're able to spin it and they combine it with silk, and it has just this. You can see it's all, just the yarn itself is very loose and drapey, and it's got this beautiful shine. Also great for summer garments as well. So 2 new yarns from them. And if you're a fan of their Comfy Sport, you'll be happy to know that that yarn is back. I've used it before. It is a great yarn. It's a blend of Pima cotton, which is a very soft cotton, not like the kind you use for the stuff that you'd find like at Michael's, those little balls of handicrafter cotton, not like that. Very soft cotton blended with a bit, like 25% I think, of acrylic. So it's great, soft, washable, perfect for kids' clothes or just summer t-shirts. So that yarn is also back as well. So that's it for Knit Picks for now, but we are going to be doing another giveaway this month, and I'm going to give away a few skeins of the yarn that they sent. Not these. I'm saving these because it's just 1 skein of each. It's not really enough to do much of anything, but it's perfect for swatching, and I've got some ideas for some summer garments. So I'm going to be swatching with those for myself, but I have some other yarns that I'll be giving away later on after we talk about all of the knitting and the things that are on my needles. So I've got a few projects that are off my needles. The first one is a pair of socks, and these are for a video tutorial all about knitting socks with shorty needles. I've knit a few now with them, and I'm still undecided about whether I love them, but I had some comments about that as well. Like I said, the ones I have are fixed circular. So the 2-inch needle tips and then the little tiny cord in between. And once I find a rhythm and I'm used to holding them, which every time I pick them up, I have to sort of find that rhythm again, then it's all right. But I find them just a touch too short. But a lot of people did say when you get the interchangeable set with the 2-inch and the 3-inch tips, if you hold the 3-inch tip in your working hand, then it's much easier. That extra inch feels a lot nicer to work with in the hand. So if you haven't tried shorties, I think you should at least give one a try. Now, I'm not convinced about them for socks because of the fixed, but I think I want to try using them for knitting a sleeve, because I don't love DPNs for sleeves, and Magic Loop is what I use, but I'm kind of meh about that too. But I'm thinking if I had the interchangeable set with those slightly longer needles, especially for that working hand, your right hand is your working the stitches. I don't think it would matter so much for the one that's just holding the stitches. I think I would really like that for sleeves. So I want to, I think I'm going to put that on my birthday list as a gift idea for my husband or my in-laws if they want to give me a gift card to a local yarn shop here that sells those. I think the Chowgu has, I don't remember which color it is, one of the little shorty sets, but not for sock knitting. I think I want to try it for the other sizes, you know, like US 4, US 5, 6, 7, 8, those sizes for sweater sleeves and see how I like them. Then maybe we'll think about that interchangeable set for the sock sizes. I don't know. But anyway, the socks are finished. So these were knit using the short circular needles, 9-inch circulars. And it's a knit 2, purl 2 cuff. And then it's looks like a short row heel, but it's not a short row heel. It's a mock short row heel. So instead of using short rows, you are decreasing and then you're picking up stitches along that edge to get both sides of your heel before you start working the round again. And then the toe you need a multiple of 8 stitches. And of course, if you don't, then you can work a decrease round before. And then you decrease 1 stitch in each of that group of every multiple of 8. So I think for my size, I had like 9 groupings of 8. So I would decrease 9 stitches and you work a set number of rows and then work another decrease round. So it's that kind of a toe shaping here. So that is another tutorial. We've been going through them. I'm getting a bit tired of the tutorials. I feel like one tutorial every month is a bit, it's a lot. It's not if that's all I were doing, but I'm doing a lot of designing as well, like for different commissions. So doing the monthly tutorials too is a bit much. So I think I might, after we're done with the socks, we've got 2 more tutorials to go for cuff down socks, for flexible double pointed needles, and then 2 circulars. We're going to take a bit of a break. And then probably when I start doing tutorials again, it'll be every other month, especially when I have other designs going on, because I mean, along with the tutorial, I also have the pattern to do, and like the taking pictures of that and then getting it tech edited, all of the things that go with the pattern plus the tutorial. So it time-wise, it adds up really quickly. But on the bonus side, I'm getting a lot of great socks in my sock drawer or for gifts. My daughter's gotten a few pairs as well. So these are the socks, and the yarn that I used is Alley Cat Yarns, her Leo BFL. It's a blend, I don't remember the percentage, but it's Blueface Leicester and nylon. And I really like BFL yarn for socks because it's more sturdy than a merino. Longer fibers, tighter spin. We've chatted about all of that stuff before, but it's a nice sturdy sock yarn. And you can tell the difference when you're touching it with your hands. Like if you held merino in one hand and this BFL in another. Slightly, like not scratchy, that's not the right word, but it's woolier. I don't know, I'm not quite sure what term I would use, but it's not as soft to the touch in your hand, but your foot's not going to be able to tell the difference. But you will be able to tell the difference when these socks last longer than your like soft merino socks, which I know for a lot of people they work just fine, but unless I really am careful to knit very tightly and work like a slip stitch pattern where the socks wear out for me, then it's better for me to choose a more hard wearing sock like this BFL yarn. And I still have some left, but I think it's going to go, I have started to use some already in my Mitred Square scrap blanket, because I've knit a few pairs of socks with this yarn. So really good yarn, really great to knit with. And I've got one more finished thing to show you. Now I've got a few other finished things I can't show because they're for a magazine or different things. One's for Mystery Knit Along. I can tell you about that in April, but I can't right now because it's not my own, well, I designed it, but I'm not releasing it. It's for somebody else. And sometimes I'm allowed to talk about them like I am for this one. Sometimes I'm not. So I've had a few things that I can't show you or can't really talk about yet, but this one I can. This one is the Citrus Chevron Shawl, and I love the bright colors in it. So it's just a very long shawl. You have to give it a nice soak in a block. I just finished weaving in the ends yesterday, but it just needs a good blocking. So this uses 3 different main colors and then sort of this darker color along here. So it's just knit, long rectangle, but it's got a basic chevron shape. So you've got these chevrons going on in here, and it's got like garter and stockinette chevrons, and then this lace chevron, and then this twisted stitch. And I'm not sure if that's going to show up very well on there. A little bit, I guess. It has some twisted stitches in there, like just 1/1 cable crossings, basically, not actually twisted stitches. And then repeating all of those down the other way. And then in between, just a few, like just an eyelet section to separate each one, and then finishing with that bit of eyelet as well. So this one, lots of fun in bright colors. It was really nice to knit because once you get like the chevron pattern shaping going, you just sort of remember how it works. You can see, okay, this is where I increase, this is where I decrease. And at least for me, I found that sort of relaxing. I didn't find it very difficult. I mean, the lace and the sort of little 1/1 cables, I had to pay more attention, but just a fun knit, lots of bright colors. Of course, you could use any colors you wanted. So this is a design for Biscotte Yarns, a yarn company here in Canada. And I think they just opened a yarn shop also I think it's in New Jersey. I'm using 4 of their yarns, well, all the same yarn. It's Flamel, which is fingering weight. It's 60% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and then 20% alpaca. So nice softness to this yarn. And there I've got quite a bit, of course, of this color left. This one's called Kalamata. This one is Sorbet, and then the lighter orange is Cantaloupe, and then Limette. So lots of nice citrusy colors. And that's what inspired the name. Just a citrus chevron, just different chevron shapes, or stitch patterns, I should say. So you have the basic chevron, and then you add in all these other stitch patterns still within the chevrons. So it's simple enough, but still enough going on to keep it interesting. So I've got to get this all cleaned up and finish writing up the pattern and get that sent off to Biscotte Yarns, and that'll be coming out sometime this spring. I've got quite a few things on my needles still. The bias wrap that I'm working in a linen and silk blend from Alley Cat Yarns. I'm making good progress on that. I have done a little more since the last time. So this is, of course, unblocked. It's a rib pattern, so when I block it, I'm going to stretch it out because, well, I've got 2 different ones. I've got a scarf size that's it's a narrow scarf, and then this one, which is a wider wrap. So I think the scarf, I'm not going to stretch out too much, so it'll be more loose and drapey. And this one, well, not loose and drapey, but you'll really see the texture of the knit 2 purl 2. But this one I want to stretch out so you can really see the lines in there. But this yarn is lovely. I love this color. It's sort of almost like a silvery color. This one's called Platinum. It's a 65% silk, 35% linen. I'm not sure they have any available right now because she carries this, I think, just in the summer, but she'll be coming back with it, of course. So this is coming right along. I have like part of a skein left and then 1 full skein. So we'll keep working on this. So this is knit on the bias. It's just knit 2 purl 2 rib, but we're working an increase at one edge, decrease at the other, and that gives us the bias shaping. But I did start with just 1 point, and I worked from 1 point out, and then I increased from there to the width that I wanted, and then I'll do the same for the other edge. When it's time, I will decrease both sides to get down to the other side. So that is coming right along. I haven't had a lot of time to work on this because, well, this one isn't really coming out until April, so I've got sort of just poking away at it when I have a spare time, but I've had lots of other things that have a tighter schedule, so I am working on those instead. Now, in the last episode, I talked about organizing all of my leftover scraps, and I have all of my sock yarn, fingering weight yarn that is pretty similar to sock yarn. That's all in here, and I started a Mitred Square blanket with this. I've already got 3 rows done. So nothing, I'm not really choosing, I'm just choosing whatever ball of yarn doesn't look like the one beside it or below it, and to start a new row. But I think I'm about 9 squares wide, so it's going to be like a sort of a lap size, you know, a throw or something like that. But no rhyme or reason, just using up scraps. And even sometimes I don't have enough to finish a whole square, so I use another color. That one ended up looking like an egg, I think. But yes, so a bit of mitered square fun. I was going to do like small sections of mitered square so I could travel with them, but then I just got going in a rhythm and I just kept doing one strip until it was about 9 blocks wide. And then I figured, okay, I got to stop and start a new row. So it's not going to be a portable project since I let it grow so big already instead of doing like a smaller section and then sewing them together. But that's all right. I can use other things for travel size. So I haven't done anything with I have a second bag that has like worsted weight. All the other weights really will DK and sport because it can hold the DK or the sport double. For a scrap blanket, it's not such a big deal. But that's mostly wool as well in those weights. But I haven't done anything. They're sort of just sitting in the bag. I think I might have done a few granny squares. Yes, I did. I did a few at church last week, but nothing really to show. Just a couple of granny squares. So I left that out by my chair in the living room. That's sort of like my mindless. These are sort of my mindless things when I don't want to think too much, but I want to knit something. Then I can, you know, add another square to my scrap blanket or something like that. It doesn't take too much brain power. And when I do have a bit of brain power, I'm working on this shawl for myself. So this is just a weekend knit. When I've made a rule with myself that the weekends I couldn't do work-related knitting. It had to be relaxing, fun knits, things I wanted to knit, or work on a scrap blanket, or do a bit of crochet, or spin some yarn if I wanted to. I haven't done much spinning in a little bit, but maybe I'll do that this weekend. So yes, on the weekends, that's my rule. Is I've got so many design things going on, but it can start to feel overwhelming and bleed into my weekends. Then I start to feel like, you know, this is not fun anymore because it's turning into work. So I'm trying to preserve my weekends for fun knitting. And this falls into that. It's just for me, some yarn that I got as a Christmas gift, which didn't really work out. I bought like 6 skeins, or I put 6 skeins in a cart thinking, okay, these might work for a fade. Then I look at them in person, wasn't going to work the way I wanted, but they sort of did work together. I picked these 3 and they're working together really nicely for this shawl. I'll show you what I do have done. Just some garter stitch stripes in these 2 colors. And now I'm working on this lace section using this color. So this is, let me see. These 2 are both Knit Picks Hawthorne yarns, Cobbler, Speckle, and Hayden. And this one is Muse. This colorway is called Poetic. So all fingering weight yarns. They're all wool based. Let me see. Hawthorne, this is a superwash fine Highland wool and nylon. And then Muse is a superwash merino and nylon. It is slightly softer than these 2, I suppose. But I don't really mind sock yarn in a shawl. I think it works well. So you can see it's knit on the bias. I like bias rectangle shawls personally. I like shawls with longer wingspans that I can either wrap around myself or wear like a scarf. I don't like shawls that end up really deep but short wingspan. I never know how to wear them. They just don't work. I want something wider. So this is going to be a nice wide shawl when it's blocked. So the garter stitch was really easy, but now I'm in the pay attention part because I've got all of this lace going on. And I've got markers to separate each repeat because it's very easy to get distracted and lose usually a yarn over somewhere. And this way, at least I can keep track of the stitches in each section. So that is my weekend knitting project when I have some brain power. I don't think I worked on it at all this past weekend because I didn't have much brain power. So it was a lot of mitered squares this weekend because I don't know if you can tell, I'm still a bit stuffed up. We've all had colds here, so I don't try to do anything that takes too much thinking when I'm, you know, my nose is stuffed up. So garter stitch mitered squares were perfect for the weekend. I'm also working on the next sock tutorial. So this one's going to be for flexible double pointed needles. Just about finished the heel flap. So this one's going to be, it's another knit 2 purl 2 pattern, but it's a knit 2, it's a garter stitch rib instead. I don't know if it's going to show up on there, but it's garter stitch, not purl stitches in between. And I'm continuing that on the heel flap, and instead of doing a slip stitch edge, we're doing a garter stitch edge because I actually like that for picking up stitches. I usually do the slip stitch edge, but that sometimes you can have holes there because when you slip a stitch, you're elongating it, you're making it twice as long as the other stitches, and that can give you holes. It makes it easy to pick up because you just pick up each of those stitches. But garter stitch, you can avoid the holes, and instead you get the little garter bumps, and you can use those to pick up your stitches. We did that with the mock short row heel. Instead of slipping the edge stitches, we did a garter stitch edge and we used the bumps. We're going to do that again with this sock pattern. So I'm working on sock number 1. Really like this yarn. This was another one of those yarns that I had set in that group of 6 for the fade. Like I wanted to do like a red to purple fade. Didn't work out, but it's perfect for socks, and it's a really lovely color by itself. So this is Knit Picks again, Hawthorne fingering weight, and this color is called Picnic. Now it is 80% superwash fine Highland wool, 20% polyamide or nylon, I suppose. And good. I've never used it for socks, but I've used their Stroll sock yarn, which is really soft, and I do tend to wear those socks out if I don't reinforce them or knit them very tightly, or like 9 stitches to the inch. But this one feels like it has more tooth. Is that the right word? I don't know what word I should use. It just feels denser, like it's going to make a more hard-wearing sock. But anyway, I'm liking this garter stitch pattern. I wanted to do something a little bit different, trying to keep the socks fairly simple because, I mean, they're supposed to be for, learning the needle technique, but also if you're new to socks, I want to keep them simple enough so it's not like some super confusing stitch pattern. So garter rib is very simple. I mean, you're just doing your rib pattern on one round, and then on the next round you just knit. But of course on the heel flap I had to change that just a bit. So we're doing our garter stitch using purl stitches on one side and then purling across on the other, because of course you can work garter stitch by purling every row the same as you could like if you knit every row. It works either way. So if you love to purl and you don't really like to knit, which would seem like an odd thing, I would think most people would be the other way, but you could actually produce garter stitch that way as well. So anyway, this first sock is coming along. The pattern is pretty much written. I just have to get it graded and tech edited and all of that, and do the tutorial for the second sock. So that will be coming up next month. Now the last thing, not even technically on my needles yet, is another pair of socks. Now I asked a few months ago about like interesting sock patterns, something that weren't quite, the normal. And one recommendation that popped up a few times was a sock with no heels, where you use a rib pattern, but you move it every 4, 5, 6 rows, and it creates sort of like a spiral. And that can give you a tube sock that will fit without having to put a heel in the sock. There's a few different ways to do this. I've read lots of different sources, sort of just used them all as inspiration to come up with one that I liked. So I've got my yarn all separated into 2 balls, and I think I'm going to do them on double pointed needles because I was going to do magic loop, but I want them to sort of spiral in different directions. And I thought if I did them both at once, I was going to confuse myself. And also I wasn't sure if the stitch count, like I usually use 72 stitches, 2.25 millimeter needles. That gives me a circumference of about 9 inches or so for my 10-inch circumference foot. I have a wide foot, but I wasn't sure if that would work with this no heel type of sock. So I didn't want to knit both to find out that they're not going to fit. So I figured if I start one and I'm using double pointed needles. I can sort of, when it's long enough, I can slip it on and make sure it's going to fit over my heel. So I took my yarn, I divided it equally into 2 balls because I'm going to start at the cuff and I just want to use up as much yarn as possible till I get down to the toe. So I'm using Alley Cat yarns for this. This is another, her Leo BFL sock. So it's 80% superwash blue face Leicester, 20% nylon, and this color is called Tweed. So I'm going to use this to try that no heel sock method. So I've seen it mentioned online. Some people recommended patterns. They recommended, somebody mentioned that it was in a knitting book as well. Yeah, Mary Thomas's knitting book. She has a section in here. Oh, you can see it right there. You can tell I've been reading that page. I don't know if it's going to show up very well, but it takes a rib pattern and then spirals it around the sock by just adjusting it 1 stitch at a time. And you can use like a 2x2 rib, 3x3 rib. You really could use any. And then you're just going to make a spiral. There's lots of ways to do it, and she explains it in here. So I sort of have written down what I want to do. And then I think for the toe as well, we're going to sort of spiral the toe in the same direction as the sock. But I want them to go in, like I want the one sock to spiral one way and then the other sock to spiral the other. I'm probably making this harder than it has to be, but we'll see. We'll get the first one done and we'll see how that goes. But I think I'm going to make a video about the process, but more like not a tutorial, but more like a vlog style, like, you know, here's how it's going and make sure it's fitting my foot, that kind of thing. So that's the last thing that is on my needles. Well, not even quite yet. I wanted to get my tutorial socks going first, and then probably this one I might do on the weekend because this is more, it's in between. I am going to make a video about it, but it's not really work knitting. It's something I want to do because I just think it's really cool to try to knit a sock with no heel. And I'm just curious to see how that will fit my wide feet. So we'll have to see about that. I also have a few sweater quantities of yarn that I got for Christmas and I have not touched yet. One of them I have put it into, it was in Hanks, so I have caked it up and it's in balls of yarn. I really want to get that one going because it's a bulky wool yarn, and I mean, it's already February and I'd like to at least get it finished so I can wear it a little bit before it's too warm to wear a bulky wool sweater in Canada. It's still cold enough right now. We had a bit of a warm spell, but now it's cold again. So I might also do that one as a video, but as sort of a challenge. Can I knit a sweater in 2 days? I mean, it's a cardigan. It's a bulky weight. So I think if I took like 2 days to just sit and watch, well, I've been watching Smallville. I've never seen it before, so I started watching that. If I took 2 days just to sit and watch Netflix or well, Smallville's on Prime and just knit, could I finish a whole sweater? I think that might be a fun video as well. So I think that's making YouTube a little more fun for me, is finding these other ways, because the tutorials and things and all of the designing is starting to wear me out a bit. So I'm trying to find fun ways to knit things I want to knit, but also to share them with you. And I think like turning that into a challenge could be fun. Like, can I knit a sweater in 2 days? I've never tried. I've never thought about doing anything like that. Most of the sweaters I've done have taken multiple days, so or even a week or two, or yeah. But it's bulky yarn and it's a cardigan. I'm not even doing buttons on it. So I don't know. Do you think it's possible to do a cardigan in 2 days? Maybe, let's say a weekend where you could start like on a Friday night and then do the whole weekend as well. What do you think? Is that something that I should even attempt, or is it like, no way, that's not going to happen? Because I'm bigger as well. It's not like I'm knitting a tiny little cardigan. It's like a full-size adult, probably some bust darts in there or something. But anyway, that is coming up. That is it. Now we do have, of course, our giveaway to do. So I'm going to grab the yarn for that. Before we do the giveaway, I do want to mention 2 new designs that have been released. The first one is behind me. That's the garden shawl. It's a giant square, sort of just draped over the mannequin right now. This uses Jelina yarns. It's a Canadian yarn company. They're Bella yarn, which is a blend of merino, cashmere, and silk. Oh, it's lovely. It's just a beautiful, beautiful yarn. I don't remember the colorway name. Night Sky, maybe? Starless Night, something like that. It's very beautiful, deep blue. But that pattern is available in the new issue of Cast On magazine from the Knitting Guild Association. And then the second pattern is for Biscotte Yarns, another yarn company here in Canada, the Luminate Cowl. I'll put a picture up here of it. Now this uses two of their yarns. Their Griffin yarn, it's 100% superwash merino in a worsted weight, and then 100% Surrey alpaca in sort of that fuzzy lace weight yarn. So I've combined the two using sort of, it's stranded knitting, but it's textured, it's seed stitch with the merino yarn. And then the chevrons in the middle of it in that alpaca yarn. So you get like these two different really fun textures, and it comes in two sizes. That infinity scarf that's pictured, which is long enough to like double over and wear as a cowl, and then a smaller cowl as well. So I'll have links down below. I'm just going to link to my pattern page, toniaknits.com, and then patterns. And that links to all of the published patterns I have, either self-published or these ones that have been just released. So let's move on to this month's giveaway. I can't guarantee we're going to have a giveaway every single month, but I want to, at least for the next few months. Last month's winner is Sally. She won some sock yarn from Alley Cat Yarns, her Leo BFL. I sent her 2 skeins along with some pins and stitch markers. And this month it is going to be some Knit Picks yarn. So Knit Picks sent me this yarn because I'm an affiliate for them and they like to show off their new things, and then it's up to me what I want to do with them. And I decided I'm saving a few of those skeins I showed you to work up some swatches for some designs, but I also want to give some yarn away. So we have 2 yarns here. The first is Heatherly. This one, it's sort of blowing out a bit from the light. This is, the color is called Ice Pop. So this is 100 grams, 218 yards. It's a really soft yarn. Now this one is 80% acrylic, 20% merino wool. So, but it is still a hand wash, dry, flat yarn, but it's great for like baby things, I would think, because it's very soft, and the colors, it comes in like all of these lovely pastels. So just a really nice yarn. Oh, and I'm reading their little thing here. So the color, it's mixed with white. So, and it provides a wide range of like sort of heathered colors. So white heathered, like it's not showing up very well on there. Sort of the light's blowing out. It's a deeper shade than it looks on the camera. Not a ton deeper, just sort of a peachy sorbet kind of color. Now the next yarn is Static. This one is a fingering weight yarn, 75% superwash wool, 25% nylon, and this is definitely great for socks. This is a self-patterning yarn, not quite self-striping, it's got some pattern in there. This colorway is called John Boy. So all of the colors are inspired by old TV shows. Like I think they had one called Squiggy. I just love the name of that one, you know, Laverne and Shirley. So all like old classic TV shows, all of these colorways have been inspired by. So repeating patterns of stripes and speckles. So there are 8 different yarns in this new collection, and they're all inspired by favorite 70s TV shows, but they are limited edition. So once they sell out, that's it, and they'll release a new set. Maybe they'll do something like the 80s. Who knows? But yes, this is John Boy. It's sort of like there's brown in there, but then there's some like touches of blues and greens and pinks and like a light khaki color. So a self-patterning sock yarn. So you'll get 2 skeins of yarn, and also because it is Knit Picks, it's their anniversary, you'll be getting like, I have a couple of these and they're not super thick, but I like them for like knitting socks. They're just a nice size for, you know, throwing in your sock yarn or other small project. These yarns will fit in there just fine. So you get a little bag, project bag to store your things in, and also a try it needle set. I don't know if you are familiar with Knit Picks needles, but I really like that they have these little sets where you can try. One is, I can't really see them in there. One is a wood needle set. They're radiant wood tips in a size 6 or 4 millimeter. And then one set of size 7 nickel plated tips. And then a 24-inch cable, a 40-inch cable, and then the end caps and a tightening key. So you get 2 cables, 2 sets of needles. You can try out their wood needles and their nickel plated tips. So that is going in this gift bag as well. Now to enter the giveaway, you just have to leave a comment. Tell me if you're looking forward to knitting socks with Static yarn, or if you love these light heathered colors of the Heatherly yarn. Just leave a comment like that. I'm gonna collect comments until Wednesday, March 1st. And then after that, I will choose a random winner. I use a random generator that I found online, and it just goes through the comments and picks one for me. So you have until Wednesday the 1st. I want to say that because last time I didn't give a date and there's still people leaving comments about the colors. So I just want to make sure that you know that after Wednesday, giveaway's done, I'll have selected a winner, and you make sure you have your notifications turned on, because I will reply to the person who won just under their comment and tell them to get in touch with me with their mailing address so I can send them their gift. And if I have to give like a deadline for that. I can't give you weeks and weeks to get back to me. It has to be like 24, 48 hours. So make sure your notifications are turned on so you can get that comment. You'll get an email when I comment when I reply to your comment. So 2 skeins of yarn, 2 sets of needles, and a project bag, all from Knit Picks. So you can leave a comment down below. And the fine print on this, YouTube is not sponsoring this giveaway in any way. Knit Picks sent me some yarn and it was up to me what I wanted to do with it. So I made a little giveaway package for one lucky winner for this month. And next month we're going to have a different giveaway with a different yarn company. But this is this month's, and it would be nice to do this every month. I think it would be fun. But that's it for this episode. Go ahead and leave a comment down below if you'd like to enter the giveaway. And I'll put a playlist right here if you want to just keep knitting along and chatting with me while we talk about what knitting projects I've been working on. I'll put a playlist here for past episodes for this season's Nerdy Knitting podcast. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next video.